welcome to Guitar Undercover. In this episode, we're going to learn a Nile Rodgers funk lick off the record Chicism by the band Chic. Let's start off by listening to the sample. Here it is slow. Okay, so the most important rule of playing funk is know thy 16th note. When we're playing funk, our hand is always consistently moving up and down, and it's moving up and down in time with the 16th note subdivision of the beat. Okay, so if we're playing the 1, it's going to be a downstroke. If we're playing in syllables, there's 4 beats in a 16th note. We say 1, E, and okay? The E is an upstroke, the and is a downstroke, and the is an upstroke. 1, E, and okay? And your hand is always moving up and down like this. Now sometimes you pull your hand away, it's still, even if it's not completely doing a full motion across the strings, it's still kind of moving in time to the beat. You want to have your hand consistently moving as you're feeling the beat, and that's what's going to help you stay in time and in sync with the drums and the rhythm section. So that's a very important key in order to play this. So I'm going to break down the rhythm. The rhythm for this particular song, it starts with a pickup on the and of 4. Then there's a downbeat on 1. Then there is an upstroke on the last 16th note of 1. Then you have an upstroke on the last 16th note of the second beat of the measure. Then you have a downstroke on the and or second 8th note beat of the third beat of the measure. And then on the 4th beat of the measure, that and is a pickup into the next phrase segment of the song. So I'm going to show you how you're going to play along to this. It's a D chord and a G chord, and we're just going to riff on this real quick, show you how you would practice in order to get your rhythm hand up to speed. So it would be... That's how I would practice that. And once you get that rhythm under your fingers, then we can add the other chords in because they're following the same rhythmic pattern. Basically, it's just a variation on all of these basic major triads on the neck of the guitar. We're not doing anything fancy. It's just major and minor triads. Only one minor triad. The rest of them are major. So the first phrase goes from a G down to a D. The second phrase goes from A to D. In that same rhythmic pattern. Then we repeat the first one again, G to D. Then the very last phrase goes, it's walking up from a G triad down here to an A, to a B minor, to a D. Those are the chords. Just apply those chords to the rhythm that I gave you. Once you've practiced that initial rhythmic pattern, you can write it down on paper, put the beats in the correct places. You have the example of how to play that, and just put them all together, and you should be able to play this just fine. The only other thing that happens before we break down into the main verse is there's a little horn horn stab, and it just happens on the first and second beat of the measure, and it's basically just a G to an A. You've already played it. You can't really hear the guitar part because the horns drown out the guitar, but if the guitar player is playing, he's just going to be copying whatever the horns are doing, and it's just a walk up from a G to an A. And then the phrase starts over again on the verse. So there you have it. It's a Nile Rodgers funk lick. I like it a lot. It's pretty tough to get up to speed if you don't play funk, so start slow, practice slow. I highly recommend using a program. The program that I use that you saw at the beginning of the video is called Transcribe, and it's fantastic. You can EQ, you can phase out certain parts. You can also slow it down in order to practice it at a reasonable tempo that you can get these licks under your fingers. And this is what I use to transcribe all of my material. So if it's something that you are interested in, you can go ahead and go and purchase that. It's by 7 String Software, and like I said, I've been using it forever and ever, and I find it to be a really, really fantastic tool. So, end of the day, hopefully you guys like this Nile Rodgers lick and start to get funky.